Isn't it funny how we navigate through life, building connections, forming relationships? But when it comes to asking for intimacy, everything can suddenly feel complicated. There's this invisible line between being sincere and being pushy, between confidence and overstepping, and somehow, we're all expected to just know how to walk it. Intimacy is not about being close, it's about being seen, says Esther Perel. And that's the heart of it, isn't it? Real intimacy isn't something you demand or manipulate. It's something that grows naturally when both people feel safe, heard, and valued. But how do you create that environment? How do you request intimacy without making it feel like a transaction or a favor? It's time we break down the mystery. If you've ever felt uncertain about this delicate dance, stick around. Hit that subscribe button, because we're diving into exactly what it means to ask for intimacy in a way that feels right for both of you. Trust me, you don't want to miss these insights. This is where the real connection starts. 1. Build genuine connection. First, before you even think about requesting intimacy, the foundation must be laid: genuine connection. It's often said that relationships, whether they are emotional, physical, or a mix of both, thrive on connection. And let's be real, intimacy, in its true form, can't exist without it. So the question is, how do you create that genuine connection? First off, ditch the idea of rushing. Building a real connection takes time, and trying to fast-track it can be a quick path to discomfort and misunderstanding. You're not just trying to get closer for the sake of intimacy. You're trying to truly know the person in front of you. Listen to them, not just to what they say, but to how they say it, what they don't say, and how they feel. Intimacy doesn't happen when two people like each other's looks. It happens when they understand each other's thoughts, dreams, and vulnerabilities. So, spend time in real conversations, learning who this person is beyond surface-level attraction. Think about this. When was the last time you had a deep conversation without the distraction of your phone or external pressures? If the answer is "I can't remember," then that's where you need to start. Connection flourishes when there's presence, being fully available to the other person. It's not just about what you say, but about how present you are in the moment. Practice mindfulness when you're with her. When you're having a conversation, focus on her instead of thinking about what you're going to say next, or how to impress her. This act of giving her your full attention creates a bond because she will feel valued and truly heard. People often think of intimacy as something physical, but emotional intimacy is just as important, if not more so. When you show someone that you're interested in who they are, not just what you can get from them, that's when the walls start coming down. In these moments of connection, vulnerability comes naturally, and so does the desire for deeper closeness. Maya Angelou once said, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." Let that sink in for a moment. Real intimacy is rooted in making someone feel seen and appreciated. If you're looking for a shortcut or magic line to request intimacy, this isn't it. The most optimal approach begins with the commitment to build a meaningful connection. When someone feels emotionally safe with you, when they know they can trust you with their thoughts and feelings, intimacy happens organically. It's not a game of tactics. It's a natural progression that arises from mutual respect and connection. Remember, genuine connection is the bedrock. When the connection is there, intimacy doesn't feel like something you have to ask for. It feels like something both of you naturally want to share. So take your time, be patient, and most importantly, be real. If you get this part right, the rest will follow with ease. 2. Respect her boundaries and create a safe space. One of the most crucial elements of requesting intimacy is understanding and respecting boundaries. This isn't just about saying you respect her space. It's about actively creating an environment where she feels safe and comfortable enough to express those boundaries. You can't rush intimacy or force it into existence. Real intimacy thrives where trust lives, and trust can only grow in a space where boundaries are acknowledged and respected without question. When it comes to boundaries, it's important to recognize that they exist on multiple levels: emotional, physical, mental, and even spiritual. Women, like everyone, have their own limits shaped by experiences, values, and comfort zones. If you're serious about intimacy, you need to be serious about listening to those boundaries. Don't assume you know what she wants or feels just because you're comfortable with a certain level of closeness. Ask her. It's that simple, yet so many overlook this crucial step. Is this okay? Or, do you feel comfortable with this? Are powerful questions that signal respect and care. These small moments of checking in show that you're tuned in to her needs, and they invite open communication. Here's the thing about boundaries. When they're respected, they often shift naturally as trust deepens. But when they're crossed, they create barriers that are hard to dismantle. Think of it like a dance. You both need to be in sync, and pushing her too fast or disregarding her comfort will only lead to stepping on toes. Trust grows when she knows that you won't push her into anything she's not ready for. A relationship where one person's boundaries are crossed is no longer one of mutual respect. It's a power imbalance, and intimacy can't survive in that space. This is where patience becomes key. Intimacy is a process, not a transaction. If she says no or expresses discomfort, it's not a rejection of you as a person. It's a reflection of her current needs. Honor that. Don't take it personally or make her feel guilty for protecting her space. You might want things to progress faster, but true connection and true intimacy only grow in a space where she feels she has control over her body and emotions. As much as you may desire closeness, you have to understand that intimacy is not just about your readiness, it's about hers as well. Also, remember that creating a safe space doesn't stop at the physical. Emotional safety is equally important. Let her know that her feelings, fears, and thoughts are welcome without judgment. When she sees that you genuinely care about her emotional well-being, she'll feel more open to being vulnerable with you. Vulnerability is the gateway to intimacy, but it only opens when both people feel safe enough to share their deepest selves. Ultimately, respect is the cornerstone of any intimate relationship. If you can show her that you not only understand her boundaries but also respect them fully, you create the perfect environment for intimacy to flourish. Boundaries are not barriers. They're invitations to build trust, and trust is where the magic happens. Communicate openly and honestly. If there's one thing that can't be overlooked when it comes to intimacy, it's communication. Open, honest communication isn't just a nice-to-have. It's the heartbeat of any close relationship. Yet, this is where so many people stumble, either out of fear of rejection, the awkwardness of discussing sensitive topics, or because they assume that the other person can just read their mind. Spoiler alert, no one can read minds. If you're serious about intimacy, you need to make room for honest conversations, even when they feel uncomfortable. The truth is, without clear communication, you're just guessing at what the other person wants or feels, and that's a risky game. So how do you approach this? Start by being upfront about your own feelings. Let her know what intimacy means to you, not just in a physical sense, but emotionally as well. Sharing your feelings openly creates an invitation for her to do the same. Often people fear being vulnerable in relationships, but vulnerability is essential for intimacy. When you communicate honestly about what you want, you set the stage for a deeper connection because you're showing her that you're not playing games or hiding behind assumptions. Now, honesty is a two-way street. While it's important to express your own thoughts and desires, it's equally crucial to listen, really listen, to hers. You may think you know what she wants, but without asking and discussing, you could be way off base. Ask her about her boundaries, her comfort levels, and what intimacy means to her. The more open you are in these discussions, the clearer the pathway becomes to mutual understanding. And here's the catch. Sometimes these conversations might not go the way you expect. Maybe she's not ready for the level of intimacy you're hoping for, or perhaps her definition of intimacy looks different than yours. That's okay. The goal of communication isn't to get the answers you want. It's to understand each other's perspectives and find a space where both of you feel comfortable and respected. Also, understand that communication isn't a one-time thing. It's not like you can sit down, have one conversation about intimacy, and then check it off the list. These discussions are ongoing, evolving as the relationship deepens. Intimacy isn't static. It changes as trust grows, as life events unfold, and as you both evolve individually. Regularly check in with each other. Ask questions like, "How are you feeling about our relationship?" Or, "Is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't discussed yet?" These conversations might not always feel easy, but they are essential in making sure that you're both on the same page. Honest communication builds trust, and trust is the foundation of intimacy. When both people feel that they can speak freely without judgment or pressure, intimacy follows naturally. So, take the time to communicate, even when it feels awkward or difficult. The deeper you go in these conversations, the deeper your connection becomes. Intimacy without open communication is like trying to build a house without a foundation. It's bound to collapse. Be open, be real, and be ready to listen as much as you talk. 4. Be emotionally available. When it comes to intimacy, being physically present is one thing, but being emotionally available is a whole different level of connection. Emotional availability means being open, vulnerable, and responsive to someone else's feelings and needs, while also being in touch with your own emotions. If you want to request intimacy from a woman, you need to show her that you're not just there in body, but also fully engaged with her emotionally. This is the bridge that takes a relationship from casual to deeply intimate. Without emotional availability, intimacy can feel shallow or incomplete. The truth is, many people struggle with being emotionally available because it requires a level of vulnerability that can be uncomfortable. But here's the thing. If you're asking for intimacy, you're also asking for trust, and trust comes from showing your emotional depth. It's not about being perfect or always knowing the right thing to say, but about being genuine. Be willing to share your thoughts and feelings, even the ones that make you feel uneasy. This is especially important if you're trying to deepen your connection. If you're emotionally closed off, it sends the message that you're not truly open to a deeper bond, which can make her hesitate to trust or open up herself. Emotional availability also means being able to hold space for her emotions. This is crucial because intimacy often involves a sharing of vulnerabilities, fears, and even insecurities. Can you sit with her when she's going through something difficult without rushing to fix it or brushing it aside? Can you offer your support without judgment when she's opening up to you? True intimacy is about being there for each other emotionally, especially when things get tough. When she knows that you can handle the highs and the lows of her emotional world without pulling away, you become someone she can trust on a deeper level. It's also important to note that emotional availability requires self-awareness. You need to understand your own emotional state and how it affects your relationship. Are you truly open, or are you guarding yourself because of past experiences or fears? If you find yourself emotionally distant or afraid to open up, take some time to reflect on why that might be. Being emotionally available doesn't mean having it all figured out. but it does mean being willing to work through your own emotions instead of shutting down. Another aspect of emotional availability is empathy. Put yourself in her shoes and try to understand her feelings from her perspective, not just through the lens of what you want or expect. This creates a bond where she feels seen, heard, and understood. Empathy goes beyond simply listening. It's about truly connecting with her experience and validating her emotions. When you show that you're emotionally available in this way, intimacy becomes something that naturally flows from the relationship, rather than something that feels forced or one-sided. In the end, being emotionally available isn't just about showing up. It's about showing up fully. It means being present in your own emotions, ready to engage with hers, and willing to be vulnerable together. If you can do that, the intimacy you seek will develop naturally, built on a foundation of trust, empathy, and emotional depth. Cultivate patience and let intimacy evolve naturally. One of the most underrated elements of intimacy is patience. In a world that thrives on instant gratification, it's easy to forget that the deepest, most meaningful connections take time to develop. Whether you're navigating emotional closeness or physical intimacy, rushing the process can not only make things uncomfortable, but also weaken the foundation you're trying to build. True intimacy cannot be forced. It has to be allowed to grow naturally. This means that cultivating patience is essential if you want a relationship that's rooted in trust, respect, and mutual understanding. Patience allows both of you to explore the relationship at a pace that feels comfortable. Every individual has their own emotional and physical timeline, and expecting someone to align with yours instantly can lead to tension and misunderstandings. Instead of viewing patience as an obstacle, think of it as part of the journey. After all, intimacy is about more than just the destination. It's about the moments of connection that happen along the way. By giving her the time and space she needs to open up at her own pace, you're showing that you're truly invested in her well-being, not just in reaching a certain level of closeness. In practical terms, patience means being attuned to her readiness. Maybe she needs more time to feel emotionally secure, or perhaps she's still processing past experiences that make her cautious about getting too close too quickly. Respecting these needs is critical. If you push her into a space she's not ready for, even with the best of intentions, it can backfire and create distance rather than closeness. She may feel overwhelmed, pressured, or like she has to meet your expectations rather than her own. Intimacy is not a checklist. It's a mutual experience that evolves when both people feel fully comfortable. Patience also requires you to manage your own expectations. It's natural to want to deepen your connection, but you need to temper that desire with an understanding that intimacy grows at its own pace. You can't expect her to open up emotionally or physically just because you're ready for it. Instead, focus on the moments of connection you're sharing now. Are you building trust? Are you making her feel safe and valued? Are you enjoying each other's company without constantly looking ahead to what comes next? These are the small steps that lead to deeper intimacy down the road. Moreover, patience allows for mistakes and missteps, which are inevitable in any relationship. There will be times when one of you isn't ready for a certain level of closeness, or when boundaries need to be renegotiated. Being patient means understanding that this is a normal part of the process, not a setback. It means showing grace when things don't go according to plan, and continuing to nurture the connection without frustration or resentment. Intimacy isn't a straight line. It's a series of ebbs and flows, and patience is what allows you to navigate those with care and understanding. In the end, patience isn't about waiting idly. It's about being actively present in the relationship without pushing for more than either of you is ready for. When you allow intimacy to evolve naturally, it becomes a shared journey, not a race to a finish line. This creates a bond that's rooted in trust, mutual respect, and a deep sense of knowing each other. Patience, when practiced well, lays the groundwork for intimacy that's truly meaningful and lasting. 6. Show consistency in your actions. When it comes to building intimacy, words are important, but actions are what really matter. Consistency in your actions creates a sense of reliability, which is essential for trust to flourish. Without trust, intimacy cannot exist. It's easy to make promises or say the right things in a moment of vulnerability, but intimacy is built over time through a pattern of behavior that shows you mean what you say. Being consistent means aligning your words and actions day in and day out, proving that you're someone she can count on, not just in grand gestures, but in the small, everyday things. Consistency isn't about being perfect, it's about being dependable. It's in the simple things, like following through on your commitments. If you tell her you'll call or meet at a certain time, do it. If you say you'll support her in a tough situation, be there. These small but powerful gestures show that you respect her and the relationship. Over time, this builds a solid foundation for deeper intimacy. Remember, intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires trust. If she can't trust that you'll show up for her in the small moments, she won't feel comfortable opening up emotionally or physically. Think about it. Trust grows when you know someone will be there for you, not just during the good times, but especially when things are difficult. If your actions are inconsistent, if you're attentive one day and distant the next, it sends mixed signals. This inconsistency creates doubt, which in turn erodes the safety she needs to feel in order to let her guard down. And letting her guard down is essential for intimacy to develop. Consistency communicates that you're stable, reliable, and emotionally present, qualities that foster a deeper connection. Moreover, consistency doesn't just apply to how you treat her, it's also about how you carry yourself in life. Are you consistent in your values and how you treat others? Are you dependable in your work, your friendships, and your commitments? These patterns of behavior will reveal a lot about your character. If she sees that you're someone who is reliable in all aspects of life, she's more likely to trust that you'll be the same in your relationship with her. Consistency shows integrity, and that integrity creates a safe environment for intimacy to grow. At its core, being consistent is about creating a sense of emotional security. You don't have to be flawless, but you do have to be steady. If you're there for her one minute but emotionally unavailable the next, it leaves her guessing about where she stands in your life. On the flip side, if your actions regularly show that you care, whether it's by listening, showing up, or simply being present, she will feel safe enough to open up and let the intimacy evolve naturally. Finally, consistency is about patience and persistence. Building intimacy takes time, and it's the day-to-day actions that build that bridge. Whether it's remembering the little things she mentions, supporting her through difficult moments, or simply being present in your interactions, these behaviors collectively prove that you're serious about fostering a deeper connection. Intimacy isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. Consistency ensures that you're running the race with her, side by side, creating a foundation that's unshakable. Practice active empathy and understanding. One of the most powerful ways to deepen intimacy is by practicing active empathy and understanding. Intimacy goes beyond physical closeness. It requires a strong emotional connection, and that connection is forged through genuine empathy. It's about putting yourself in her shoes, truly understanding her feelings, and responding with compassion. When you practice empathy, you demonstrate that you not only hear what she's saying, but that you are emotionally engaged and present in her experience. This kind of understanding makes her feel safe, validated, and appreciated, creating a fertile ground for intimacy to blossom. Active empathy starts with listening, really listening. In many conversations, people tend to listen just enough to formulate their own response, but that's not the kind of listening that builds intimacy. When you practice active empathy, you listen to understand, not just to reply. It means giving her your full attention, reading between the lines, and picking up on the emotions behind her words. Sometimes what's left unsaid carries as much weight as what is spoken. For example, if she seems withdrawn or upset, but insists everything is fine, active empathy means noticing that and gently offering her space to share what's really on her mind, without pressure. Understanding her emotional landscape doesn't stop at recognizing her feelings. It's also about validating them. Everyone wants to feel heard, and often, women need to know that their feelings are seen as legitimate, even if you don't fully understand or agree with them. Avoid the temptation to jump in with solutions or fixes right away. Sometimes, all she needs is for you to acknowledge how she feels. I see how that would be frustrating, or I understand why you feel hurt. These small statements can mean the world to someone who just wants to feel heard and understood. When you show her that her emotions are valid, she'll feel safer opening up to you, which deepens the trust and connection in your relationship. Empathy also involves being patient with her emotional process. Maybe she's dealing with something difficult, like past trauma, stress, or personal challenges, and it affects her ability to be as open or intimate as she wants to be. Practicing empathy means understanding that intimacy isn't always going to move at the pace you desire, because sometimes people need time to work through their own feelings. Being there for her through those ups and downs, without rushing or pressuring her, demonstrates that you're emotionally invested in the relationship and that you care about her well-being, not just your own needs. Ultimately, empathy is about connecting on a deeper emotional level by truly understanding her perspective. When you practice empathy, you're telling her that her feelings matter to you, that you're there to support her, and that you're willing to walk alongside her in her emotional journey. This creates a space where she can be vulnerable without fear of judgment or misunderstanding. Empathy strengthens the emotional bond between you, making intimacy a natural extension of the trust and connection you've built. It's one of the most important skills in creating and sustaining deep, meaningful relationships. In the end, active empathy isn't just about being there for the big emotional moments. It's about being attuned to the small, everyday experiences that shape her emotional world. When you show consistent understanding and compassion, you build a relationship where she feels truly seen, heard, and valued. This is where real intimacy begins. Be vulnerable and share your own feelings. Intimacy is a two-way street. It's not just about making her feel comfortable and understood. It's also about opening up yourself. Being vulnerable can be difficult, especially if you're used to guarding your emotions or believe that showing your feelings is a sign of weakness. But in truth, vulnerability is one of the strongest foundations for genuine intimacy. It's about allowing someone to see the real you, beyond the masks we often wear in daily life. When you share your own feelings, struggles, and insecurities, it creates a deeper emotional connection and encourages her to do the same. Being vulnerable doesn't mean oversharing or dumping all your worries at once. It's about being honest in moments that matter. For instance, if you're feeling anxious about where the relationship is headed, or if something's weighing on your mind, say it. Expressing vulnerability could be as simple as admitting, "I'm nervous about opening up, but I want to be honest with you." Or, "Sometimes I'm afraid of getting hurt, but I trust you." These small acts of honesty show her that you're willing to take emotional risks, which builds trust. By letting down your guard, you're saying, "I trust you with this part of me." And that's a powerful signal in any intimate relationship. Vulnerability also shows her that you're not trying to project a false image of always being in control. Society often teaches men to hide their emotions, to toughen up, and avoid showing weakness. But that mindset can be incredibly damaging to intimacy. Real strength lies in the courage to be emotionally honest, even when it feels uncomfortable. When you're vulnerable, you invite her to see the real you, flaws and all. This doesn't make you less attractive, it makes you more human. It's a way of showing her that you trust her enough to be real, which in turn encourages her to let her guard down as well. Another key aspect of vulnerability is sharing your desires and needs. Many people are hesitant to express what they truly want in a relationship because they fear rejection or feel embarrassed. But intimacy requires open communication about what each of you needs, both emotionally and physically. By being clear about your desires, you create a space where both of you can express yourselves without judgment. Whether it's about wanting more emotional closeness, discussing your dreams for the future, or expressing what makes you feel connected physically, vulnerability helps ensure that the relationship meets both your needs and hers. There's also strength in admitting when you don't have all the answers. Maybe you're confused about where things are going, or you're unsure how to navigate a tricky situation. Instead of pretending to have it all figured out, vulnerability means acknowledging your uncertainties. This honesty can bring you closer because it shows her that you're willing to work through challenges together as equals. Relationships aren't about one person leading while the other follows. They're about mutual support, and vulnerability is the key to achieving that balance. In the end, being vulnerable isn't about being emotionally raw all the time, but about showing her that you're not afraid to be real. It's about creating a space where you both feel safe enough to share your deepest selves, knowing that the other person will respond with care, not judgment. Vulnerability fosters closeness because it says, "I'm willing to trust you with this part of me." And when that trust is reciprocated, true intimacy flourishes. As we've explored, intimacy isn't something you can rush, force, or demand. It's a journey of trust, connection, and mutual respect. It requires genuine effort, patience, emotional vulnerability, and consistent action. Intimacy doesn't happen overnight, but with the right approach, it becomes a beautiful, natural evolution in any relationship. You now have the tools to navigate this delicate space with confidence and care, creating a deeper bond with her that goes beyond surface-level attraction. Now, here's a question that has echoed through history. How well do you truly know yourself? Before seeking intimacy with another person, it's vital to understand your own desires, fears, and emotional landscape. Are you ready to give as much as you wish to receive? Ancient philosophers often asked, "Can one give what they don't possess?" This question is key when seeking closeness in relationships. How can we offer trust, empathy, and love if we haven't cultivated those qualities within ourselves? I'd love to hear your thoughts. What challenges have you faced when building intimacy? How do you think vulnerability and trust play a role in your relationships? Drop a comment below. I want to know your experiences. If you found this journey helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more insights into life, relationships, and personal growth. Let's keep the conversation going. And remember, intimacy is about the journey, not the destination. So, take your time, be real, and let connection unfold naturally.